David, welcome. Let's start by talking about what we spent a lot of time this afternoon talking about and hearing from listeners. And that's about this government's decision, our provincial government's decision, to start charging foreign students coming to English universities here a whole lot more money, ostensibly, according to the government, because it's a matter of economics. It's not about English.
Well, if it's not a matter of English, Sharon and Natasha, why did the whole setup for this announcement was Jean-François Roberge, the language minister, saying yesterday that he's hearing too much English in the streets of Montreal, and Pascal Derry, who can skate with the best of them. Remember, she was defending Rousseau at Air Canada before last election. So the fact is that there's no data. Always when what's very interesting about all these moves on the protection of French and the threatening of French, you never have hard data to back it up. And even when there is data, it's disputable, it's debatable. And here, there's just nothing. And as a francophone who was born and raised in Montreal, who's worked in Montreal almost all his life, the most troubling thing about this is that while it's another slap in the face of the English-speaking community, it shows yet again that when we're talking at the CAQ of Quebecers, English-speaking Quebecers are not part of that word for the CAQ. The Quebec nation does not include all Quebecers. And 96 is an example, 21 is an example, you can go to English Week a few months ago was an example. The idea here is, while this is horrible, and I agree, I heard your interview with Greg Marwa, I heard the callers, I heard James Meny, but let's also think about how you attack this. And the key here is economics, because when you speak to Investissement Québec, which is our arm to attract foreign investment here, when you speak to Montréal International, Montreal International, which is another organization dedicated solely to bring foreign investment to Quebec and to Montreal, the prime argument, this is written down. This is actually, you go on the websites, you go on the kits that are distributed when these organizations make pitches internationally. It's Montreal's great advantage of having 4 major universities and 2 of them being English, and one of them, McGill, being one of the best in the world. And when you make that pitch, you also say, and I've heard these pitches, you also say, and you know, tuition is far less than anywhere else. Because when executives are thinking about investing, and we are in a global competition. Northvolt, for example, was a global competition. Well, when you have executives and workers, because it's not all going to be workers that are already in Quebec. You're going to have executives and workers that are going to come from abroad to set up a plant like Northvolt or any other type of investment. They're going to send their kids to school, and they're going to think twice. I mean, you've been parents. You think very seriously about where to send your kids to school. And so it's part of the calculus. And so there is no data, but there is hard data over the years that Montreal's competitive advantage over many North American cities is the fact that we have 4 great universities, 2 of them being English-speaking, and the low tuition was always part of that strategy. And that's what we need to understand. And that's where the Liberals have to be attacking. On the French side, by the way, the Liberals are nowhere.
Oh, great.
Today, yesterday, they're absolutely nowhere on this issue. And when we're talking about immigration, it's the same thing. You have these rumblings in Montreal. Look, ask Michel Leblanc of the Chamber of Commerce. The fact is that without immigration, without thriving universities, we lose economically, and that's the Achilles heel of these policies. You played the clip of Éric Girard, the finance minister. He's echoing what I've been talking about for the last few minutes. It's exactly part of our pitch, and the Legault government just doesn't care about this. They lost to the PQ, the by-election in Jean Talon. The only way the CAQ can win out elections is by eliminating the PQ. A strong PQ threatens the CAQ, and the only way you can't overtake the CAQ when you're the Parti Québécois talking about anything else than ultra-nationalist language issues. And so that's why the CAQ is doing this, but it is short-sighted, like the policies on immigration, like 96, 21, 40. These are policies that are set up for immediate political gain to scare older white francophones in the regions who have never been to Montreal, will never be in Montreal, don't understand Montreal, and it's to scare them continuously into voting CAQ versus the PQ. That's it. That's all. And ultimately, this is contributing to the economic decline, and we're seeing the data coming out the last few months. We're seeing data showing that Montreal and Quebec economically, compared to Ontario and other provinces, our economy is slowing down much more. And is it a coincidence that those bad economic numbers correlate almost perfectly with the fact that we're greeting less immigrants? That now these policies with Bill 96 and all these other policies are starting to add up, and companies and potential employees, because we still have the major labor shortage, by the way, are choosing to go elsewhere in Canada than coming to Quebec. It's starting to show, and that's where you need to attack. That's where you need to have Marc Tanguay going. That's where, and the Liberals don't even have an economic critic now because Beauchemin has been excluded from the caucus. So now we need clear attacks on the impact of this on the economy, and there's data for this.
You know, you covered a lot of ground there. The one question I do want to ask as a follow-up is this. I mean, part beyond this tuition story, Jean-François Roberge basically said this is part of a new wave of measures being planned by the premier. He talked about 50 measures.
Sure.
We know one. We know Netflix and Shopify, including French's two. Are we to be concerned here, David?
Concerned? We absolutely have to be concerned. And you're talking about the federal government. I mean, tomorrow, Justin Trudeau can announce a $200 million scholarship program for foreign students, and that be solved. So, I mean, if this is going to continue, because just remember this, we've been talking about this for 2 days. The news leaked yesterday, the announcement today. While we're talking about this, Aaron and Natasha, we're not talking about the disastrous healthcare system, the disastrous education system, the disastrous housing situation, the disastrous senior care situation, and the disastrous impact of the cost of living on Quebecers.
Right.
So now, when we're talking about language, we are completely obfuscating the clear issues on which this government is failing desperately all Quebecers, regardless of the language they're speaking.
So it's working.
It is.
They've managed to get us to change the channel, is what you're saying. Okay.
Well, you gotta change the game. You can talk about compasses till you're blue in the face with the Liberal Party of Quebec. If you accept this is basic Sun Tzu warfare. This is political strategy 101. If you accept your opponent's terrain, you're halfway towards losing. You got to change the conversation. It's not about, so you fight and you call on your allies on the federal side to fight with you, and you fight fire with fire. You just don't take it lying down. And once again, by the way, there are Francophone allies across Quebec on this issue.
What does that mean?
That means it's not just an English-speaking Quebecer issue. And that's why when you talk about this through the scope of the economy, that's when you bring in more allies. Because a guy like Éric Girard, who, by the way, there are constant rumors that this guy is going to leave the CAQ government to run for the Conservatives, I will bet you anything that guys like Éric Girard, even guys like Pierre Fitzgibbon, who you don't hear at all when these policies come out, are getting phone calls and are being said, hey, hold on a second, how is this going to work with my investment? Or how is this going to work? Even, you remember with the immigration policies and the very restrictive immigration policies, there is an exception called, it's actually called within the CAQ government, the Fitzgibbon exception, where there'll be certain very discretionary exceptions for immigrants who are tied to major Quebec investments. So I think what we need to be talking about, yes, this is despicable. It has a very negative impact on our institutions. It's a slap in the face yet again to the English-speaking community. But what I'm trying to offer here this afternoon is a way also to talk about this, not just as something that is being done to a minority in Quebec, but something that's being done to all Quebecers and a way to bring allies in the fight against this.
David HEURTEL. David, you have a great weekend. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Bon weekend, mes amis.
You too.
Thanks, David.